Security guards of Reddit. What is the weirdest thing you've seen through a surveillance camera? Work at an art gallery. One summer they had an outdoor installation called Gumhead. It was a large bust of the artist that exhibit belonged to. People were of course encouraged to stick their used gum to it, and by the end of the exhibit, it was absolutely covered in chewed, rained on, heated up and had birds crap on it. One night I'm sitting in the security room when I noticed a guy pacing around the bust. I zoomed in on him to find that he was picking the gum off the bust and shoveling it into his mouth. I'll never freaking forget that one. I worked in a museum and had the head of security show me one of his guys, a supervisor, doing his best to hop over the admissions desk. The guy didn't get enough air and landed squarely on the glass of the admissions desk. It shattered around him. It was pretty fantastic. Even better, it wasn't a move that he was pulling for some sort of security related obligation, but it was after hours and he was trying to impress a new hire. Not a security guard, but I work as a sleep technician and we use cameras for every study. Saw a 75-year-old man wake up in the middle of the night, rip the covers off to expose his raging hard-on and furiously jack off like it was the last boner he would ever have. I spoke to him over the speakerphone in the room and told him this study was being video monitored, and he replied that at his age, you don't waste one. I turned the monitor off and let him finish. Didn't speak a word of it in the morning when I had to unhook all the wires. He replied that at his age, you don't waste one. This gives me a new lease on life. I used to be a security guard in Kuwait. Let's just say the Kuwaiti National Guards did not know they were being supervised. One of the guards had their feet up in the window of his guard booth, so I sent out a supervisor to wake him up. Turns out the guard's relief had shown up early and was giving him head. The supervisor walked in on them mid-act, but don't worry, the guards insisted they weren't gay. I love the Middle East. That's some relief, alright. Bro went above and beyond the cod. While working at a department store at the end of a strip mall, I saw a bobcat run past the doors, heading towards Target. Several seconds later, I saw a mother, father, and 2 children go running past in the same direction. A few minutes later, the family walked back past the doors, with the father carrying the bobcat. A big, frick-off bobcat. It was kinda odd. And then this other time, I watched 2 people meet up in the parking lot. They both parked. Then the guy got out and got in the gal's car with her. This happens a lot. It's almost always an affair. Anyway, what ensued was some of the most bizarre intimacy I've ever witnessed. She was a bigger gal, and when she unbuttoned her pants and lifted her shirt, I figured I knew where this was headed. But he never went lower than her belly. This grown man just sat there for a half hour jiggling and jostling her massive belly, shaking and patting it. The strangest part, he didn't look like he was into it at all. He alternated between looking bored and horrified. I imagine my face was doing the same thing. About a half hour later, he answered a phone call and left abruptly. She buttoned up and drove off. I never saw them again. I worked security at a casino and a children's mental hospital, not at the same time. At the hospital, the best was a parent wailing on a psychiatrist's car with a bat because they didn't like that he pointed out their anger management issues. At the casino, I saw the guy shovel $80,000 worth of chips into his underpants when the dealer turned her back. So I think it's safe to say he wasn't angry so much as he was frustrated. Retail security here, and I've seen some crap. The single weirdest thing was probably when a naked guy on PCP was being chased by police. He broke through the thick window glass on the driver's side of a Mercedes to evade capture. The officer said he didn't even flinch when he got tasered. I do a lot of theft research at my store, and while I was reviewing video for those gel bra stuffer things, I noticed that every single woman would check their bust size when they walked past. Not live, but I once saw video of a security guy at another store beating off in his office. Doing a stroll through the parking lot of a factory I was a guard at once. Noticed some commotion in a vehicle, so I shined my flashlight into the window. I busted Manager A with Manager B's wife. It was slightly awkward. I worked at a hotel and we had a group of college kids come ask us if we had security footage of the pool area between 3-5 am. They were all excited about it, so we pulled it up. They had put something in the lock on the pool door so they could get in later. We didn't care because they were checking out anyways. But at around 3 AM, you see them sneak in, and about 30 minutes later they started a drunken belly flop competition and wanted us to tell them who won. One of them did about 5 perfect belly flops in a row. I am talking no fear, grade A belly flops. We told him that he won and he raised his hands up in celebration, got a funny look on his face and ran outside to puke. I have yet to see a more perfect belly flop, yet alone 5 of them. I tried to stick a double front flip from a diving board but did a 1.5 front flip and landed on my back. I thought I entered a different dimension when I entered the water. I can't imagine purposely doing that but on my stomach. The vast majority of the time it's all boring stuff. But 2 things stand out while reviewing pub footage, more gross than weird. 1. Saw a woman in a short dress shimmy over to the end of the bench seat she was sitting on, hang half her butt over the edge, pull aside her underwear and crap on the floor, all the while sipping her drink and talking with her friends. She stayed there for around 20 minutes before moving on. 2. Another lady one night was performing oral sex on a male patron in a back corner, stop suddenly, vomit, wipe her mouth off and then continue to perform oral sex. We would usually check our cameras when we found vomit crap blood in the bar area in the hope we could identifying who it came from and stop them at the door the next time they tried coming in. One time on mall security footage I saw a girl was squatting behind a bike rack to take a pee. The mall was downtown near all the clubs. Apparently she heard me coming around the corner, freaked out, tripped over the bike rack and fell into her own pee. She got up and was running away when I actually turned the corner. Worked 5 years in security at various locations in good parts of the city to crappy parts, from government regulated facilities to a factory. Weirdest crap I seen was probably the random freaking chimpanzee that was walking down the street around 3 AM outside my yard shack. I live in Iowa. It was the first time I've seen a chimp outside a zoo. I called the police station that was down the street and went back to watching movies. Never did hear what happened from that, but I learned I shouldn't ask too many questions. I'm not dying for 9.50 an hour. This was in Cedar Rapids. I once saw a guy try to push open a pool door and smack his head on the glass. He then looked around to make sure no one saw. I saw you, guy, and I laughed at you. I've done this before, and when I thought no one was watching I hear someone start clapping, so I look up and this guy at least 15 stories up was applauding me from his balcony. Every security department saves some of the best clips or clips that might be needed to use in future court dates or to protect them. Best clip I ever saw was a fight take place in a Walmart parking lot. Started with 2 women arguing and that quickly escalated into a full-blown catfight. That wasn't the interesting part. Their 2 male friends started getting into it. One pulls a tire iron out of the back of his truck. The second quickly goes to his car and pulls out a golf club. They start acting like 2 gorillas, showing how tough they can be. The one with the tire iron starts swinging it around above his head when it slips out of his hand and hits a kid who was walking by with his parents. By coincidence, the cops show up at the exact same time. They were pretty brutal stopping that fight. I volunteered working at a jail once. A guy jumped off his bunk and broke his ankle so bad that it looked like from the front. He passed out from the pain. I passed out looking at it. Ouch. Ex-security. I saw someone fall down on an ice patch and drop a Pyrex dish once. Security cams are pretty boring. Most of the time we just replay any physical confrontations we'd get into. I saw a dude go into a women's bathroom late at night. He was in there for at least half an hour, and this was at a college, so I went to see if he did anything. I go in to find blown up condoms on all the faucets. It made me giggle, so I left them. I'm not a security guard, but I do have to review my hotel security footage occasionally. One time there was a fight reported in the halls, so I reviewed the security footage to see what happened. This huge guy threw this girl to the ground and booted her in the head. She sat there for a minute, then got up and followed him to the room. They had already checked out when I reviewed this footage, so I couldn't get rid of him. What I did do was hand the tape over to the police with his name and address. The NFL reviewed the incident. Not a guard, but when I was in high school, working at a grocery store, I got called in to watch a video at loss prevention. It was a co-worker of mine who walked down a whole aisle, looked around, jammed his hand up and down his butt crack, then sniffed it and went on like nothing happened. He didn't know he was on CCTV. I worked at a grocery store too. My store and assistant store manager brought me into the office. I was thinking I was in some deep crap. They start showing me a security video of me walking down an aisle in my own world, dancing and bobbing my head ridiculously while one of my co-workers was shoplifting about 5 feet away from me. I was so into my dance I didn't even notice him. My father is responsible for a handful of factories scattered around the country. He got a call one day from the security officer to come up for some advice. Apparently there is a high school nearby and a couple from the school were screwing behind a large pile of mulch that was on the factory property. While watching the live feed, Dad called the school and told them the situation. He watched while the principal interrupted them. He says that he's never seen anyone put on pants so quickly in his life. Told them the situation. Bro. I work bouncing at a bar some, so I've seen tons of crap on the video from the night before. I've seen 2 dudes double stuffing a chick in the back bar. The door was locked, so one of the guys used a credit card to pop the lock. I've seen many drug deals and hundreds of tea. But the weirdest thing was my ex-wife jerking a dude off and looking at the camera. My buddy told me to watch it cause he knew she did it to pee me off. It didn't work, I just showed all the bartenders and waitress. Should have sent it to her parents. Not a security guard, but my father owns a self-service car wash strip mall in a crappy part of Las Vegas. We had CCTV cameras to make sure people weren't vandalizing or stealing crap. I've seen a lot of prostitutes fricking clients in the car bays and homeless face first in our trash searching for crap. It was pretty active at night. Craziest crap I've seen was a meathead druggie fricking the car vacuum's hose. It was pretty surreal. So yeah, that happened. We had the cameras on for like 2 months before they were, ironically, stolen. That's gotta be North Las Vegas, man. I once saw 2 crackheads choking each other out over by Sam's Town on Flamingo and Nellis. Not a security guard, but I frequently review video for situations that happen at my work. I'm one of the most adept people in my building when it comes to using our camera system. We had a situation that happened outside of our building that needed reviewing, but nobody was sure of the exact time. Cue to me watching a 12-hour block of footage, with as much as 16x fast forward, to get some details. I had my boss's boss in the office with me while he was working on something else as I stared at the computer monitor trying not to fall asleep. After half an hour or so, I finally spot the person I'm looking for and get excited, so I lean forward right into the screen, scouring for previously unnoticed details. Right at that moment, a spider ran onto the camera lens. Keep in mind, the recording I was looking at was days before when I was watching it, and the camera was outside on the opposite side of the building from me. That didn't stop me from screaming so loud I could probably have been heard outside, causing the boss's boss to jump on his chair as if there was a cartoon mouse in the office. When I tried to explain it and rewind the video, I couldn't find the spider again and he just thought I was insane. He always looks at me funny when he comes by to visit our building. He interacts with thousands of people in my same position all across the country, yet he remembers me for screeching about a spider that was never anywhere near me. You know, if you couldn't find the spider again in the tape, maybe it was actually just a massive spider on your screen. If you say this can't be right because you saw the underside of the spider from the POV of the camera, and you would see a spider on your screen from the top down, then maybe it was on your face. You'll never know. Around midnight, drunk dude walks into an alley behind a building, sleeps for 20 minutes, wakes up, staggers around, stops and stares at a door, runs at door head first and knocks himself out, wakes up, tries unsuccessfully to open the door, pulls doorknob off, throws the doorknob at it, then walks away. I saw 3 casino floor waitresses go to a storeroom behind a bar, pulling their tops down and comparing breast sizes and feeling each other for bounciness. Apparently one of them just got implants and they were comparing them to the real thing. This went on for over 5 minutes, then they pulled their tops back up and went to work like it was nothing. Nice. Local furry convention came into town. I was searching through cameras when I came upon a supposedly unused convention room. Inside was a man in his underwear wearing a dog mask. Around him were about 8 other individuals who were also dressed as various animals. The other animals began to throw what appeared to treats into the underwear guy's mouth, who by the way now has started to act like a dog. This went on for quite some time as each member of the group took their turn acting like their animal as the others threw threats into their mouths. This is so much more tame than what I was expecting. Not a security guard but job at an ice rink required camera review occasionally. Was during a youth hockey match and 12-year-olds. During a line change, one kid's skate managed to catch another's neck and the resulting blood spew made the stand full of parents immediately go nutterbutters. I've never seen anyone react so quickly as this coach. Had a towel in his hand already and lunged for the kid. The child did survive, as the local station was maybe 500 feet down the road. Moral: don't panic and always carry a towel. Thanks Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I don't have terribly cool stores, but earlier this year I saw a guy headed into a dumpster area across the property. I head on out there and confront him, and the dude was just bumming through the trash. As I have my light on him, he pulls a perfectly intact Sega Genesis out of the dumpster. For about 10 minutes I forgot that I was supposed to make him leave because we were both so flabbergasted as to why someone would throw a perfectly good Genesis out in the dumpster of a vegan grill. I let him keep it at least. Worked at a coffee shop, but through our CCTV we watch a bloke have explosive diarrhea right outside the front of our store. This was in the middle of the night. He wiped his hands on the walls then walked away like nothing happened. Turns out he was just an eccentric artist. A man opened his trunk, pulled out his pocket P and went to town. The open trunk blocked his view as guards approached the vehicle, so he was all in when they made eye contact. I copied this from another thread I posted in. I worked in a prison as a guard and we recorded the video using our cameras there. So this guy was working video monitoring at around 9 PM when he saw something moving out in a nearby cornfield. He pans the camera and zooms in on it and sees a black dog thing walking through the cornfield. Then as he is about to pan the camera back to its original spot, the thing stands up on its 2 hind legs and sprints across the cornfield towards the tree line. I called BS, but since the video monitoring saves all its feed for 30 days, I was able to watch it during training with the guy. Not me, but I read a story on another thread a couple years ago. Someone was in a horrible accident and was rushed to the hospital. Upon being notified, all the family members showed up. The patient wasn't in good condition and doctors relayed to the family that this person was not going to make it through the night. The family was a wreck. Everybody was sobbing uncontrollably, understandably so, as their world had just been turned upside down. All the while, this Redditor, a hospital security guard, watched on camera as the father went around consoling every hysterical member of the family. He never shed a tear and remained calm the entire time. He went from person to person tending to them, putting his arm around them, hugging them. This man was an anchor to the others and he knew it. He kept his head up while reassuring everybody things would somehow be alright. Now this went on for hours. The father's disposition never changed as he watched his entire family in anguish. Eventually, he left the group and began walking through the hallways of the hospital. This Redditor followed him on camera until he turned into a vending machine room and just collapsed. His hands moved toward his face as his legs gave out and he sat there in a puddle of his own grief. OP described how awful it was seeing this pillar to the rest of the family buckle under the reality of the situation. I hope I didn't butcher the story too much. You know, there are just some stories you read on here that do something to you. Well, this was one of those stories for me. If anybody remembers this post and could link to the original, I'd be very grateful. Buddy of mine was working mall security. They got a call to the nail salon. Black lady ran up a big bill and said her husband, Lionel Richie, would pay for it. Yes, that one. Buddy has no training whatsoever and decides to cuff the 300+ pound black lady. Gets one on and she starts screaming and slinging him around. He won't let go, so she bolts, dragging him along with her. The constable on duty was laughing so hard he was no help. They showed me the tape over and over and now use it as how not to do things for new hires. Please do share, kind sir. No, not a security guard, but I was shown the footage of me doing something incredibly stupid. It was a book signing for the band JLS. I was working as a shelf stacking technician at the bookstore Eason's in Ireland. My job for the day was to usher the screaming girls from the band signing area once their book was signed. Now when I say there was a lot of girls, I mean a lot. Like a good 2,000 girls all queuing up to get this book signed. Well, I saw the top few people in the line. Funny enough, the first person in line was a guy. When it came time for signing and GLS entered the building, holy fucking heck, the hat near blew off the house. Anyhow, the first guy walked up screaming and got a kiss off each band member on the cheek, then proceeded to faux faint on the floor, right beside the queue. This in turn riled up everyone, and everyone was screaming and fainting for the next 3-4 groups after. Each time I had to help them up and tell them to leave quickly, to which they jumped up and were out. I was not having a fun time. Then there was this one girl. In retrospect, I should have seen the signs, but I was too angry and whatnot. Anyhow, this one girl walked up by herself, white as a sheet. She gets a peck off each band member, and whilst walking towards me she face plants the floor. I mean full on. No reserve. Straight up headbutts the floor full force. I am just standing over her with my arms crossed like yeah, come on, get up, while my manager and 3 other staff members run past me to help her up from my feet. Blood all over her face and passed out. She had really fainted. The security guard must have rewound the tape a million times to show just how much of a dickhead I looked, while laughing uncontrollably, standing over her with my hands crossed as everyone around scrambles to help her. Proceeded to faux faint on the floor. Weird spelling, I know, but I think that's what you meant. Current security guard here. Saw the sphere like a UFO hover above cars in the parking lot, then flew around trees, over the field, then to the back of the building. Minutes after, I saw another sphere-like object on the internal camera floating upstairs and out of view. I was freaked the frick out. The week after, I reviewed the footage again and realized the first sphere-like object was a balloon and the second one was a dust particle. I was freaked out because I watched an alien documentary just before that occurred. Worked night security at a hotel. So much fricking in elevators. If you are going to do that, it is easiest to just go doggy on the floor. The hot P way is to brace her back against the wall, then reach down and lift one leg up at the knee, then the other. If you can get her knees situated in the crook of your elbow, it is really hot, but you have to be pretty fit to pull it off. Me and my ex fricked in a Kohl's clothing store elevator. I didn't know there were security cameras in elevators. Would have a be the mid-50s guy who was completely naked and covered head to toe in tattoos doing helicopter spins with his penis for a solid 5 minutes. I work at a school district and was doing camera maintenance. Passed by a camera with someone flipping it off while she was giving some guy a handy in a stairwell. I called the campus cop and told him. His response was, I know. This dirty little sucker was watching it on his monitor. You should have watched with him. Could have been a great bonding experience. I am not a security guard, but when I moved into the building I live in, we have a channel on the TV that lets you see the security cameras in the building. There are 9 of them in little squares. One is in the laundry room. I was here about a week and decided to check out the security channel out of curiosity. In the laundry room, I could see what looked like a man standing behind a woman, who was bent over the sink. He was really giving it to her. I could see him moving a lot, and floppy hair in front of him. I was shocked. What kind of place did I just move into? Should I take off my pants? Then something happened. The man moved out of the way. The long floppy hair was attached to a very thin neck. Then it hit me. This was not some man fricking the crap out of a woman after all. It was someone trying to unclog the drain with the handle end of a mop. I still finished. Oh, it would be sweet for a while, but in the back of our minds we'd know that I'm a man and you're janitorial equipment. I used to work for a company that did security for a university, but the university also had their own police. University of Toronto campus community police. While working at a residence at night, one of the security cameras picked up someone going into a small stairwell to do some drugs. As per our instructions, we called the U of T police to deal with the situation. When the U of T police arrived, we were following them with the security camera and watched them start going down the stairs. Suddenly, the camera turned and looked away, looking onto the street. Even though I had not used the controls to do that, I turned to my supervisor, who explained that the U of T police had remote control of the cameras and they had did that. When the cops came back up, the person they arrested looked like he was beaten severely. He did not look like that previously. When I asked around later, the report said he fell down the stairs. Story from a friend who worked as a security guard. Their post was behind a one-way mirror. When you entered the facility you'd see a long mirror on the wall and not know there were people behind it. One day a job applicant arrived. She paused at the mirror to check for lipstick stains on her teeth, then reached into her V-neck top and adjusted her headlights to make sure they were evenly distributed. The guys behind the mirror nearly choked laughing silently. She ended up not working there, so clearly the guards had no influence in HR. I didn't think people still trust random mirrors in public areas. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.